What does life look like after love, fame, and health all fall apart? For Angela Winbush, the breakup of Renee and Angela wasn't just professional, it was deeply personal. The fallout reshaped her career, her finances, and her faith in the industry she helped define. Add a painful divorce, serious health battles, and years of being overlooked, and her silence suddenly makes sense. Now in 2025, Angela lives quietly and intentionally. From the home she's built, to the healing she fought for, and the surprising compassion she showed when Ron Isley suffered a stroke, her story raises powerful questions. How did she survive it all? And what does her net worth really reveal about the cost of dignity? Stay with us to find out. Angela Winbush was born in St. Louis, Missouri, and her earliest connection to music was rooted not in ambition, but in faith. Raised in a middle-class neighborhood, she began singing in church, where discipline, harmony, and emotional expression were treated as responsibilities rather than performance. Music was present, but it was not yet a dream. After graduating from Northwest High School, Winbush envisioned a very different future, one built around structure and design rather than stages and spotlights. That vision led her to Howard University, where she initially studied architecture. Singing at that point was simply a way to earn extra money. Still, she never fully left music behind. While attending Howard, she continued performing in church and began working alongside gospel composer and arranger Richard Smallwood, absorbing the discipline and emotional intelligence required to carry spiritual music. At the same time, she joined a performance group called Hot Tea, balancing rehearsals with coursework in a life that demanded constant adaptability. Hot Tea proved to be a quiet but important training ground. The group opened for established performers and provided background vocals for recording artists, exposing Winbush to the mechanics of the music industry from the inside. Among the group's members was Tawatha Agi, who would later become one of the most sought-after background vocalists in the business and a core member of Mtume. Watching peers move fluidly between supporting roles and creative leadership planted new ideas in Winbush's mind about what a sustainable music career could look like. By 1977, she made a pivotal decision. She changed her major to music education and recorded a demo. The shift was not immediately rewarded. She shopped the demo to multiple record labels and was repeatedly turned away. Rather than abandon the effort, she relied on relationships and reputation. Through industry veteran Wayne K. Garfield, her demo eventually reached New York radio personality Gary Bird. That single connection changed everything. Bird helped secure Winbush a position in Stevie Wonder's backing vocal group, Wonder Love. As part of Wonder Love, Winbush entered a rare apprenticeship. Touring and recording alongside Wonder exposed her to the architecture of songwriting, how melodies were constructed, how arrangements breathed, and how lyrics carried responsibility. She was no longer just singing, she was studying. Wonder encouraged her growth as a writer and arranger, helping her understand that longevity in music often depended on ownership and creative control, not just visibility. It was during this period in Los Angeles that Winbush met Renee Moore. Their connection was immediate and creative rather than purely romantic. Together, they recognized a shared strength not only as performers, but as songwriters and producers. That realization led to the formation of Renee and Angela later that same year. From the beginning, they approached their partnership strategically, intent on building a catalog that could sustain them beyond chart cycles. Renee and Angela released their self-titled debut album in 1980, followed by Wall to Wall in 1982 and Rise in 1983. During this early run, they scored 2 top 20 R&B hits, I Love You More and My First Love, songs that showcased Winbush's sophisticated phrasing and emotional restraint. Even then, she stood out not just as a vocalist, but as a thinker, someone shaping sound with intention. A street called Desire and Meeting Ronald Isley. As Angela Winbush and Renee Moore were still establishing themselves as Renee and Angela, their reputation behind the scenes began to grow faster than their name on the marquee. Record executives quickly recognized that the pair possessed something rare, the ability to write and produce with both commercial instinct and emotional intelligence. That recognition led to a pivotal opportunity in 1982, when they were asked to contribute 4 songs to Janet Jackson's self-titled debut album. One of those songs, Young Love, became a defining early moment not just for Jackson, but for Winbush herself. The track climbed to number 6 on the U.S. R&B chart, marking Jackson's first top 10 hit and quietly announcing Winbush as a songwriter capable of shaping careers. It was a breakthrough that positioned her as more than a vocalist. She was now a trusted architect of sound. Around the same time, compositions by Renee and Angela were recorded by respected acts such as Rufus featuring Chaka Khan, Lamont Dozier, and Odyssey, further cementing their credibility in elite songwriting circles. The duo's industry influence peaked in 1985 with a song that would redefine Winbush's career trajectory. I Have Learned to Respect the Power of Love, recorded by Stephanie Mills, soared to number 1 on the U.S. charts. Winbush had developed a close personal friendship with Mills, and the song, an anthem of emotional maturity and self-worth, felt deeply aligned with Winbush's own sensibilities. Though an earlier version had been recorded by Alton McClain and Destiny, it was Mills' version that resonated with mass audiences, confirming Winbush's gift for writing songs that carried both strength and vulnerability. That same year, Renee and Angela signed with Mercury Records and released what would become their defining statement, Street Called Desire. The album marked their full arrival, blending dance floor urgency with emotional depth. Its lead single, Save Your Love, for number 1, reached number 1 on the R&B chart, and made history by featuring guest vocals from Curtis Blow, a bold move that placed the song alongside Chaka Khan's I Feel For You as one of the earliest mainstream R&B tracks to prominently integrate rap. The success did not stop there. I'll Be Good became a club staple, while Your Smile, largely driven by Winbush's vocal and emotional leadership, climbed to another number 1 R&B position. The follow-up single, You Don't Have to Cry, reached number 2 in early 1986. Street Called Desire ultimately sold over 1 million copies, achieving platinum status and marking the commercial peak of Renee and Angela's partnership. Yet, at the height of their success, cracks were already forming. Creative and personal tensions between Winbush and Moore intensified as industry pressure mounted. The same dynamic that fueled their brilliance, 2 strong creative minds sharing control, became unsustainable. Their split came just as the world fully embraced them. Afterward, Moore continued to thrive behind the scenes, notably as a songwriter and producer for Michael Jackson, while Winbush stood at a crossroads. That crossroads led her into one of the most influential collaborations of her career. In 1986, Winbush was introduced to Ronald Isley, the unmistakable voice of the Isley Brothers, through industry connector Benny Medina. At the time, the Isley Brothers were in a period of transition and grief. Eldest brother O'Kelly had recently passed away, leaving Ronald and Rudolph to carry the legacy forward. Winbush stepped into the role not just as collaborator, but as creative anchor. She wrote, produced, and arranged the group's Smooth Sailin' album, guiding the project with clarity and restraint. The title track became a top 10 R&B hit, revitalizing the Isley Brothers' sound while honoring their roots. Sharp and subsequent follow-ups. With the success of her behind-the-scenes work firmly established, Angela Winbush entered a new phase of her career, one defined by artistic control, visibility, and personal entanglement. After recognizing her rare combination of vocal power and compositional intelligence, Ron Isley made a decisive move. He chose to manage Winbush. That decision placed her in a protected yet demanding position, where expectations were high and the spotlight unavoidable. The result was her solo debut, Sharp, released in 1987. The album was both a statement and a risk. Its centerpiece, Angel, revealed the full scope of Winbush's 4-octave range, controlled, emotive, and technically fearless. The song reached #1 on the R&B chart, holding the position for 2 weeks and firmly establishing her as a solo force. Other tracks such as Run to Me, C'est Toi, It's You, and the duet Hello Beloved with Eisley showed her versatility, moving fluidly between dance, intimacy, and classic soul. Sharp proved durable as well as successful, remaining on the Billboard 200 for 28 weeks and spending more than a year on the R&B/hip-hop albums chart. Winbush's authority as a producer only grew. In 1988, she wrote and produced 2 tracks, Without You and Fire and Rain, for Sheena Easton's gold-certified album, The Lover in Me. Rather than reshaping Easton to fit R&B conventions, Winbush pulled something deeper from her, highlighting a lower register and a soulfulness rarely emphasized before. It was another quiet demonstration of Winbush's ability to adapt her songwriting to the emotional truth of the artist in front of her. Her second solo album, The Real Thing, 1989, reinforced her consistency. The title track climbed to #2 on the R&B chart, while No More Tears and Lay Your Troubles Down continued her top 40 streak. Though crossover pop success remained elusive, Winbush had become a fixture on R&B radio, reliable, respected, and unshakable. The album also included her own version of I Have Learned to Respect the Power of Love, a song she had already turned into a #1. One hit for Stephanie Mills. That same year, she again delivered for Mills, writing and producing the chart-topping Something in the Way, You Make Me Feel, and the album cut So Good, So Right. Simultaneously, Winbush became central to the creative rebirth of the Eisley brothers. In 1989, she oversaw all songwriting and production for their album Spend the Night, which produced the #1 hit. 3 R&B hit, Spend the Night, Ce Soir. Her influence continued into the early 1990s, as she scored additional top 20 R&B hits for emerging acts, including the group Body and Lala Hathaway, while co-writing and co-producing the Eisley Brothers' Tracks of Life, 1992, which featured the hit Sensitive Lover. On June 26, 1993, Winbush married Eisley, a union that fused personal and professional lives in ways both productive and precarious. The following year, she released her 3rd solo album, Angela Winbush. Its lead single, Treat You Right, produced by Chucky Booker, reached #1, 6 on the R&B chart, becoming her 9th top 10 R&B hit. Even as trends shifted, Winbush's voice and writing retained their relevance. Her collaboration with the Eisleys continued with Mission to Please, 1996, which included Floatin' on Your Love, a duet with Eisley that later received a high-profile remix by Sean Combs, featuring Lil' Kim and background vocals from 112. The accompanying video symbolically placed Winbush opposite Eisley's Mr. Biggs persona, an artistic moment that blurred fiction and reality. By the time of Eternal, 2001, her involvement had diminished as the marriage quietly unraveled. In 2002, Winbush and Eisley divorced without spectacle. A year later, she faced a far greater challenge when she was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. Following surgery and treatment, the disease went into remission. Winbush returned to performing, not as a reinvention, but as a survivor. Angela Winbush's enduring legacy. Over time, Angela Winbush's influence has proven far larger than her chart positions alone. From her earliest days with Renee and Angela, the music she created alongside Renee Moore became foundational, not just for R&B, but for generations that followed across soul and hip-hop. Their catalog carried melodies and emotions that refused to age, inviting reinterpretation long after their initial release. In hip-hop especially, Winbush's work became a quiet blueprint. The notorious B.I.G. sampled I Love You More for I Love the Dough, featuring Jay-Z, embedding Winbush's writing into one of rap's most revered catalogs. Foxy Brown reintroduced Winbush's voice to a new generation when I'll Be Good was sampled for her 1997 hit, I'll Be. Silky Fine drew from You Don't Have to Cry for Romeo and Juliet, while Avant revived the Renee and Angela ballad My First Love with Kiki Wyatt in 2000. One of the most symbolic moments of recognition came in 2001 on 106 and Park, when Winbush surprised audiences by joining Avant live on stage during his performance of My First Love. It wasn't a comeback announcement, it was a reminder. The applause acknowledged that the original voice behind the emotion was still very much present. As a vocalist, Winbush became known for a signature style rooted deeply in gospel tradition. Her melodic humming, often woven between lines rather than placed neatly at the end of phrases, became a defining trait, one that younger artists studied closely. Singers such as Selena Johnson and Shantae Moore have reflected her influence, particularly in the way vulnerability and technical precision coexist in their work. Beyond performance, Winbush's legacy is rare in its breadth. Alongside Renee Moore, she helped pioneer the integration of rap into mainstream R&B records, placing them among early innovators alongside Jody Watley, Chaka Khan, and Cameo. Even more unusually, Winbush succeeded simultaneously as a songwriter, arranger, producer, session musician, and performer, a space few women have been allowed to occupy. As a trained pianist and keyboardist, she approached music structurally, often thinking like an architect, perhaps a quiet echo of the career she once considered. Her personal life, however, demanded a different kind of strength. In a 2006 interview on the Christian television program Gospel of Music with Jeff Majors, Winbush revealed that she had survived stage 3 ovarian cancer after undergoing 6 months of chemotherapy in 2003. During the conversation, she spoke candidly about how faith sustained her, not only through cancer but through the removal of a benign breast cyst, the collapse of her marriage to Ron Isley, and a prolonged battle with depression. For Winbush, faith was not a slogan. It was a daily discipline. After years away from mainstream television, she re-emerged publicly in 2010 with a live performance of Angel on The Monique Show. The appearance was restrained and powerful, less about nostalgia, more about endurance. That same year, she appeared on Unsung, where previously unspoken truths surfaced. The documentary revealed that Renee Moore had become violent toward Winbush in later years, a reality that ultimately forced her to leave both the personal relationship and the musical partnership. Moore declined to participate in the program, leaving Winbush's account to stand alone. Rather than retreat, she redirected. In 2011, Winbush stepped into gospel theater, appearing in the stage play Church Girl as a minister named Maya, alongside Demetria McKinney, Karen Clark Sheard, and Robin Givens. Later, in 2019, she appeared in the film Fire and Rain, continuing to choose roles aligned with healing and reflection rather than reinvention for its own sake. Angela Winbush once helped ex-Ron Isley recover from stroke after he supported her during hard time. For Angela Winbush, compassion never ended where marriage did. Her relationship with Ron Isley followed a long, complicated arc, one shaped by music, love, separation, and ultimately, mercy. Though their marriage lasted less than a decade, the bond they formed proved more resilient than the paperwork that ended it. Angela and Ron married in June 1993, despite a 13-year age gap and the intense pressure that came with blending personal and professional lives. Their union placed Angela at the center of the Isley legacy, where she contributed creatively while navigating the expectations of fame. By 2002, however, the marriage quietly dissolved. After the divorce, contact nearly vanished. They moved forward separately, carrying unresolved emotions that time had not yet softened. What brought them back into each other's lives was not nostalgia, but illness. In 2003, Angela was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. The news arrived during one of the most vulnerable chapters of her life, following the end of her marriage and years of emotional strain. During chemotherapy, Ron reappeared, not as an ex-husband seeking closure, but as a man unwilling to abandon someone who mattered deeply to him. He stayed by her side throughout treatment, offering steady support when it was needed most. Angela survived. The experience changed her priorities and her voice in public life. She became an advocate for women's health, urging regular medical checkups and early detection. She also remembered who showed up when the stakes were highest. So when Ron suffered a mild stroke in London just a year later, she did not hesitate. Angela traveled to his home in St. Louis, Missouri, to help him through recovery, an act that surprised many and confused others. She addressed the judgment directly. "People think I'm very foolish for being that way," she admitted, acknowledging the whispers and assumptions. But for Angela, health eclipsed resentment. "When it comes to somebody's health," she said, "I just don't feel like I should be your enemy." It was a statement rooted in faith and maturity, a refusal to let past hurt dictate present humanity. At the time, Ron was dating Candy Johnson, his background singer, a situation that could have easily bred tension. Instead, it revealed grace on all sides. Candy understood the history and accepted Angela's presence during Ron's recovery. Years later, Ron and Candy married and welcomed a son, Ronald Isley Jr., in December 2007. The moment passed without scandal, without rivalry, only quiet acknowledgement that compassion had taken precedence. Today, Angela and Ron remain friends. The intensity of their former partnership has softened into mutual respect, shaped by shared history and hard-won perspective. Neither lives at the center of the industry as they once did, but music still connects them, less as a spotlight, more as a shared language they never forgot. Inside Angela Winbush's quiet fortune in 2025, her home, net worth, and the life she built after the spotlight. Behind the legendary voice and decades of quiet influence, Angela Winbush has built a life defined not by excess, but by intention. In 2025, her estimated net worth of $5 million reflects a career that unfolded steadily, often behind the scenes, through songwriting, producing, publishing royalties, touring, and long-term ownership of her work. Unlike artists whose wealth rose and fell with trends, Winbush's fortune is the result of durability. Much of her income comes from classic catalog royalties. Songs written for Renee and Angela, solo hits like Angel and Treat You Right, and her extensive production work for other major artists continue to generate revenue through streaming, radio play, sampling, licensing, and live performance usage. Her compositions have been sampled repeatedly by hip-hop and R&B artists, quietly renewing their value decade after decade. In addition, her years as a producer and arranger, particularly during her collaborations with Ron Isley and the Isley Brothers, secured back-end earnings that still pay dividends today. Angela's home mirrors the same philosophy as her career: calm, private, and grounded. While she keeps the exact location discreet, those close to her describe a residence that favors warmth over show. The house is said to be bathed in natural light, with open living spaces rather than rigid formality. Hardwood floors, neutral tones, and soft textures dominate the interior. Nothing flashy, nothing performative. This is a home designed for breathing, reflection, and healing. The living room centers around a piano rather than a television, a clear statement of priorities. Framed awards and photographs are present but understated, often tucked into shelves rather than displayed as trophies. Large windows open toward greenery, reinforcing a sense of retreat. The kitchen is functional and inviting, not oversized or ornamental, reflecting her preference for nourishment over spectacle. Bedrooms are described as minimalist and serene, with an emphasis on rest and balance, particularly meaningful for a woman who survived stage 3 ovarian cancer. Today, Angela's lifestyle is notably active, yet peaceful. She remains engaged with fans through platforms like Twitter and Facebook, where she shares thoughtful reflections rather than constant promotion. Her appearances are selective. Festivals, charity events, and special performances such as the Sandiata Festival in Seattle, venues that emphasize musical integrity over hype. She no longer chases the industry, instead the industry comes to her. A significant part of her life now centers on advocacy and charity. As a cancer survivor, Winbush has become a vocal supporter of ovarian cancer awareness and early detection. She regularly uses her platform to encourage women to prioritize health screenings and to speak openly about illness without shame. Her charitable work is not loud or branded. It often takes the form of benefit performances, private donations, and participation in awareness campaigns rather than formal foundations. Those close to her note that she prefers impact over visibility. Financially, Winbush lives comfortably but conservatively. She is not known for luxury cars or extravagant purchases. Her spending reflects stability, home, health, creative projects, and quiet travel. This restraint has helped preserve her wealth while allowing her the freedom to create and give on her own terms. In her personal life, Angela has found renewed happiness. She recently celebrated her wedding anniversary with her husband Tim Polk, marking a chapter defined by companionship rather than turmoil. Friends describe her as peaceful, focused, and deeply grateful, still passionate about music, but no longer consumed by it. In 2025, Angela Winbush's home is not just a residence, it is a sanctuary. And her net worth, while impressive, tells only part of the story. The greater wealth lies in longevity, survival, and the rare ability to live quietly after shaping the sound of an era. What do you think about the way Angela Winbush chose to live her life after fame and hardship? Would you call her journey inspiring, underrated, or both? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss stories like this one.